Rachel Maddow's fierce pledge on Colbert: "We're not going to be the generation that loses American democracy." Late-night television often serves up comedy, celebrity gossip, and the occasional quirky musical act. But sometimes, a conversation cuts deeper, hitting the national mood like a lightning bolt. That's exactly what happened when Rachel Maddow appeared as a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, delivering a powerful message that has since rippled far beyond the Ed Sullivan Theater stage. Sitting across from Stephen Colbert, Maddow exuded her signature mix of calm intensity and humor, but it was one particular moment that electrified the audience and social media alike. Looking directly at Colbert and then out to viewers, she declared, "We're not going to be the generation that loses American democracy." It was more than a line. It was a vow, a challenge, and a spark of hope all at once. Colbert, who had been playfully peppering Maddow with questions, paused to let the weight of her words settle in the room. The audience, normally quick with laughter or applause, went quiet for a beat, absorbing the gravity of what she'd said. Maddow's voice was steady, but her eyes flashed with urgency, revealing the depth of her concern for the country's future. Throughout the interview, Maddow reflected on the intense and often alarming political developments of recent years. She and Colbert discussed how the threats to democracy have become more visible, how attempts to undermine elections have grown bolder, and how disinformation has eroded public trust in democratic institutions. Maddow, with her encyclopedic knowledge of American history, traced parallels to other moments when the United States teetered on the edge of democratic backsliding, only to be pulled back by citizens who refused to surrender to despair. Yet this wasn't simply an interview about gloom and doom. Maddow radiated determination, insisting that Americans have the power and the obligation to defend their democracy. She emphasized that democracy isn't an abstract idea, but a living system that survives only if people actively participate. She urged viewers not to become numb or cynical, despite the relentless drumbeat of bad news. At one point, Colbert asked her how she stays hopeful when covering such dark topics night after night. Maddow smiled wryly and admitted that the work is emotionally draining. But then she leaned forward as if confiding a secret and said the reason she doesn't lose hope is because history shows that determined citizens can change the course of events. Her confidence wasn't naive, she explained. It was rooted in evidence from America's past. She spoke of civil rights activists, suffragists, and countless everyday people who stood up when it mattered most, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Maddow's words hit home in a political climate increasingly defined by polarization and uncertainty. Clips of her appearance quickly spread across YouTube, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter, garnering millions of views. Fans praised her clarity and moral conviction, while political commentators dissected her message for what it signaled about the coming election cycle and the broader fight to preserve democratic norms. As the conversation continued, Maddow and Colbert shared moments of humor, lightening the atmosphere without losing sight of the stakes. Colbert joked that he might need to borrow Maddow's historical knowledge to get through future political crises. Maddow laughed, but reminded him and the audience that everyone has a role to play, whether by voting, volunteering, staying informed, or simply refusing to normalize anti-democratic behavior. She was particularly emphatic that giving up is not an option. "We're not going to be the generation that just shrugs and lets this go," she said. "We're not going to let a centuries-old democracy slip away because we were too exhausted to defend it." Colbert closed the segment by thanking Maddow for her relentless work and for giving viewers a reason to believe that the fight for democracy isn't over. As the applause swelled and Maddow waved to the crowd, her words continued to echo, fueling conversations long after the credits rolled. Maddow's appearance was more than just another late-night interview. It was a rallying cry, a reminder that the fate of democracy rests not in the hands of a few powerful individuals, but in the collective determination of ordinary citizens. In a time of political turbulence, her declaration stands as both a warning and a promise. This generation will not be the one that lets democracy slip away.